This is a Flutter Flame tutorial to learn how to use the block state management architecture. The block is controlling the size and the speed of the animated character. So as you get through it, the size of the character, which is a sprite component, does increase. With the block architecture, you can easily use the drawer on Flutter. So it's running a Flutter layer here to change some of the parameters. And this is actually a snack bar from Flutter. This is a Flutter alert dialog. And this is a Flutter text button here. For this tutorial, I'm using the free assets from artist Pixel Frog, which is available on itch.io. You can just search for Pixel Frog. I'm using the Pixel Adventure for the pink, this guy here. I think he's called Pink Man. But in our game, I'm calling him Pinkie. Okay, let's create a new Flutter project. So Flutter create, I'm going to specify the platforms, Android, and you'll just run it on Android. I'll call it Pinkie tutorial. Okay, so let's go into Pinkie tutorial, and we'll add a bunch of packages. Flutter pub add. So I'm going to add equitable. This is for the block. I'm going to add flame block, flame block, Flutter block, and maybe that's good enough. I'm going into the lib folder now. I'm going to create my directory structure. So make directory. I'm going to create something called a Flutter layer, a flame layer. I'm going to create something called actors, levels, and blocks. So if you're on Windows, you may have to do this one at a time. So within the lib folder, I now have all these different folders here. Okay, let's start VS Code. In the pubspec.yaml, I'm going to enable the assets. So I'll create a new folder called assets images, and I'll put my assets in here. Do control backtick, open up the terminal. I'll do flutter pub get. Okay, let's look at the package Pixel Adventure that I downloaded from Frog Pixel on itch.io. There's some main characters, and we're using Pink Man. So I'm going to grab Pink Man run here, and we will put it into my assets images. And I'm going to call him Pinkie, that's what we're naming him, run.png. And it's a sheet. Okay, let's pop open main.dart and we'll delete everything. Just so that you know every line of code in here. Maybe let's call it how about like Pinkie app. Pinkie app will return a material app, and the material app will require a home and Let's return a scaffold. And we'll return a stack. Because we're going to layer up the Flutter and the Flame layers here very shortly. So we got our stack here. Nothing's going on, but maybe we'll just run it and see what it looks like on the Android emulator. Okay, we've got a completely white screen, and it does have the decoration here, top and the bottom. And there's nothing going on with Pinkie right now, but I think I want to maybe set it up for the game first. So in this Flame layer folder here, I'm going to create first the Flame layer file, and we'll just make this a stateless widget. Call it Flame layer. I'm going to control dot and I'll import the material app. So this is still Flutter at this point. We haven't really touched the Flame section, but we'll do that right now. So create another one here. I'll call this one Pinkie Game. So we'll do class Pinkie Game extends Flame Game, and it's red because we need to import the Flame Game package. So this is going to be all blank here. To actually start using it, we're going to need to have it return a game widget, and this is a Flutter widget that requires a property here for the game, which will be our Pinkie Game. Okay, so a Flame Game here, import at the top, and we're going to drop it into main.dart. And the Flame layer will be our base layer here. Okay, should be all black. Yep, so this is what we want. Is a completely black screen. We haven't started to populate it yet. Okay, I'm going to build this thing up in stages. So let's create Pinkie now. Our Pinkie.dart. Pinkie is the name of our character. It's going to extend. So we'll start off with a Sprite component. I'll switch it over to a Sprite animation component. So initially, this thing won't have any animation to it. So we'll just create a constructor, which is the same name as the class. And the Sprite component, that is a superclass, we'll set a position. We'll just, to start off with, maybe 100 in. We'll also set the size of Pinkie. So there's a vector 2, all, and I'll set it to 100 as well, 100 pixels by 100 pixels. I think I'll set the debug, which is debug mode. It's this kind of purple box around it so you can see the collision when it happens. And we're going to need to load the sprite. So there's a method for onLoad here, which will take care of some actions at the time the Sprite component loads. So when Pinkie loads, but because we have to wait for the maybe some images to load from disk, it's a future. The method is called onLoad, which is built into this Sprite component. It's actually built into all the position components of Flame. So this onLoad is from the Flame package. Sprite component is from Flame, it's not from Flutter, and onLoad is also from Flame. So it'll be async because we're going to need to wait for the the image to load from disk, right? We'll run the super first. And we'll set the sprite. So sprite is a property of this sprite component here. But in order to load it, we're going to have to use a mixin. So sprite component with has game ref. So this will allow us to access the load sprite method. So I'll call it game ref load sprite, and it's the string, the name of the sprite, which is Pinkie run. Initially we'll have Pinkie run, all the cells will appear, but then we'll slice off one pretty shortly here. So this syntax, if you're new to Flame, so there's a mixin, right? So you're probably not familiar with the mixin from Flutter. So this has game ref allows me to use the game ref here. And with this game ref, I can now access the specific methods that's part of Flame game. So this load sprite is not in the sprite component. I have to use it from the Flame game. But now I have Pinkie. So let's attempt to add Pinkie to the Flame game. So Flame game itself also has a onload method. We use the same thing, future void onload async, and we'll do the same thing. Oops. We're going to try to add Pinkie. So I got an auto import of the actor that I just created. And let's see whether Pinkie was added. Okay. Pinkie was added. If you remember, Pinkie is a sprite sheet. So we did not slice off the first cell right now, but at least there's something here, and we know that something is working, although you can't see the individual characters yet. So I'm in the Pinkie dart file. Pinkie is our character. I'm going to mouse over it. You see that there's a source size here, right? So I know that the source size is 32 by 32 pixels. So in Dart, we're using a vector to all. And let's check out Pinkie again. Oh, so you can see Pinkie's here at 100 by 100 pixels. So just to show you, I'm still in this Pinkie file. Pinkie is an actor. An actor is anything that moves. That's what I'm calling it. So within the Pinkie class, we're going to override the update method, which is built into the Flame Sprite component. So this method is how the character is updated. So if we wanted to change the position of Pinkie, Pinkie does have a X coordinate, and Pinkie will move. If we're moving Pinkie 1 pixel per update cycle, so there's 60 cycles per second in how this works. And we'll just comment this out for now to show you that how Pinkie can move. If we wanted Pinkie to move in this way. So it's X and Y, Y being the up and down. Top is 0, 0 here. We'll comment this one out too. So in our mobile app here, there's these bars here which I want to get rid of. Let's go to main.dart. So right up here in main, right at the top of their main.dart program, it's above run app. I'm going to make sure the widgets are initialized. Widgets, Flutter, binding. This is from Flutter. Just make sure that the Flutter engine has been initialized. And so you can access all the Flutter stuff. But I'm going to set from Flame. I'm going to make sure that the device is in landscape mode. I'm going to go over this red squiggly, control dot, and import Flame. Then I'm going to set this device, and this is the good part of this one here, to full screen. And hopefully I can get rid of the decoration here. You have to, yep. So now it's, when you play it on your mobile phone, it'll look a little bit better, right? So you don't have the top and bottom portions here, right there. So on itch.io, I'm going back to Pixel Frog, and I'm now on his thing called Treasure Hunters. And instead of downloading the entire tile set and building the map myself, I'm going to save this image. So if you copy it, or just copy one of the frames. If you save as, you'll have to then just save it as a PNG or something that's not an animated GIF here. And then drop it into your game. So it's not the best practice. This is just a way to quickly kind of piece out a scene here and test it out. So we'll eventually add this in levels. Maybe I'll just add it right here. So load sprite. We already used it with Pinkie. And then it's, I'll call it background. PNG. We'll set the size to the size of the game. And let's see how it looks. Okay. Or move Pinkie down. Pinkie's there. So we want to move Pinkie. You can test it out right here. So I'll just comment it out until we build our virtual joystick. I'm using a stack for the Flutter and Flame layers. So now in the Flutter layer folder, and I'll call it Flutter layer.dart. I'll make it into a stateless widget again, and I'll call it Flutter layer. And I'll do control dot and import the material package. Make a row, children, and we'll do text, call it score. Now add the Flutter layer in here. We'll put it under the Flame layer, Flutter layer. Control dot and import it. So it's up here, very small, also black and kind of hard to see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, so I don't have to keep putting the style in for every text widget, I'm actually going to drop it into a theme here. We'll go theme data. I'll set the text theme, and I'll make it a text theme here. And now you can access all the built-in themes, right? So I think this one is body text 2, right there. So now for body text 2, which is the one from the text style, at least I'll set the color to orange for the material app, colors dot orange, so it'll be easier to see. And now you see it's orange here, but it's still pretty small. So as a kind of a trick, this is not the best practice, but then if I just set the font size here, I won't have to mess with it for the future for other things here. So it's kind of humongous actually. Okay, so I have my score there, and it's in the Flutter layer, which is in a row. So I'll do main axis alignment dot space evenly, and this. Okay, so it's right there. So if you want to get the score in your game, you can simply put a variable score here. And then you can access the score if you pass the entire Flame game over into the Flutter layer, which I did have covered in separate videos. But this tutorial series is not focused on building a game. This tutorial series will be focused on building up the block. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to tackle the block state management. This is not needed for Flame development. This is only needed if you want to learn the block system, which you can use with Flutter. It may help you build more complex games in Flame. The main purpose here again is to learn the concepts of the block architecture for state management for Flutter.